Hi there, Fred Evander here with Amy Christensen and Philippe and Torin at 111 South 3rd Street. And Philippe and Torin, what do you know about your home?
We've heard lots of stories about how it's been here a while. A local barber lived in it and then built a home in the back for himself to live in so that he could set his own family up in this home. We've heard some legends about the tree, but not a whole lot of other specifics.
Perfect. Well, hopefully we'll learn something together today.
Awesome.
All right, so in digging into the research for this home, I went all the way back to Henry Hill's donation land claim. So in 1878, this lot was sold to the Hodgins family. And the Hodgins are interesting because he was the postmaster for Independence for a lot of years, and his wife was Jeanette. But what's actually extra interesting is the fact that they had a house on this lot, but they moved it. So that's not this house. Yeah, so this is not the first house on this lot, but it still has a lot of history to it because this one was here in 1888. So in 1888, the Hodgins sold this property to a family that was called the Beamers. Marion Beamer and his wife, at the time they had 3 young adult children. They had this home built, and they were instrumental in the founding of this building over here, yes. So the congregation existed before that, but Marion Beamer was invested in the committee that got this building built, which is pretty neat history. Because this is a significant piece of property here on 3rd Street, and these both went up at the same time. So that's really neat.
Siblings.
Yeah, sibling houses. The Beamers were going through a lot when they lived here. They had just lost their 16-year-old daughter, and they had another daughter who was training to be a singer, and so she went and performed across the country. She went to New York. They called her the Songbird of the Valley, and her name was Etta. And I really think that's fun history, and that you would appreciate that, especially as an artist.
Yeah, this one sings too.
Awesome.
Yeah. He's keeping the vocalist tradition alive here.
There you go. So this is the Beamer family, Marion and Jenny, his wife, their sons who started their careers and married and everything from this home. And this is Etta, the singer.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So they lived here for a little while, and then, of course, as happens, properties change hands. And this actually went into the possession of J.S. Cooper, who's an interesting local figure because we all know the Cooper name from the Cooper Building on Main Street. He used this as an investment, and it was called J.S. Cooper's Cottage across from the Baptist Church.
The whole thing.
Yeah, it was listed that way in the newspaper. But he was using it as investment property, so other people lived here until 1910 when Eli Tinker Henkel bought this home.
That's an incredible name.
I had to say the whole thing because it's just the best name. Eli Tinker Henkel and his wife Hattie, they lived here with their family. He was a barber.
Okay.
He was a barber, yep.
Some of the rumors are true.
That was a very true rumor. In fact, there's more to the barber story. But so they were interesting in that they had a lengthy history here, and they had a very close-knit family because Hattie lost 4 of her 5 children in their young childhoods. And so that one daughter that they had, Emma, who survived to adulthood, they were just extremely clung to each other. It's kind of beautiful. I read a lot about their life. He passed away here in 1915, and Hattie passed away 5 years later while visiting Emma. So she was with her daughter. She went to the Oregon Normal School, and then she spent her whole life as a teacher and traveled around Oregon and was in serious leadership positions in education. Passed away in Monmouth and is buried with her parents. So the Henkel history is just a really loving, connected history in this house, which I loved. Mm-hmm. She hung on to this property well after her parents had passed until the 40s. And it was in the 40s that the Hardens bought the property. And they're interesting because we have another full circle moment with this house. Cliff Harden was a barber. I don't know if they knew each other. I think it's just coincidence, but I thought that was really interesting.
It is.
They stayed here for over 40 years, and he was really invested in the church across the street. He was a volunteer there for almost 50 years.
Wow.
So again, full circle, where the family that built the home was connected to the church, and the family that got this home on the Historic National Registry was invested in the church. So neat family stories here. Definitely a home that's filled with voices and history and loss and faith and service, and just, it was really fun to research.
Cool.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Cool. Well, Amy tends to talk about the history of the home, and then I tend to talk about the architectural styles of the home. And so for a lot of what I do, I look at things like Sanborn maps, which were old fire insurance maps. And it's really interesting because every house has a story to tell. Every building has a story to tell. And I think this one tells really interesting stories just because of how it's changed over time. And so this house, when I look at it right now, I'm like, I can't really tell what's going on. I don't really understand like how it got to be like, I don't quite understand how it got to be like this. But the historic designation document calls it a vernacular home. And I'm like, okay, yeah, it makes sense. You know, the people sort of built it over time. It sort of has some styles that were pieced together over time. And then I looked at the Sanborn maps and I realized, oh, there's really interesting things going on here. For one, when the home was originally built, the door was on that side.
That makes more sense.
The north side of the house?
It was on the north side of the house. And so when you realize that, it's like, oh, I totally get what's going on with this house. This is the side of the house. There was no porch on this side originally. The porch was on the front side.
So they took the front door out to put a fireplace in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or I don't know if that's the reasoning, but there's a fireplace there now.
Yeah, something like that. Well, and it's interesting too, because when they ended up putting on this, there's actually a write-up in the newspaper, and it says something about 1912, they conducted a remodel. It says, when it's completed, the building will have the appearance of a modern bungalow. And I thought, oh, is it? And I thought, okay, so that's what they were going for. They shifted it from that side. They put this hipped roof thing on the front, and they probably put that shed dormer up there at the same time. And they were going for a modern bungalow look. And you can see in 1913, the porch has shifted sides.
Yep.
That's incredible.
And it's amazing because when you look then at a 1984 picture of the house, you can see it. That right there, that shed roof dormer has exposed eaves like you would see in a craftsman bungalow style house.
And they've added another window.
Well, that's another thing, because when we look at this house, we look at it even from 1984, and I would say, look, it's changed again.
Yeah.
It's changed again. And so some things that I can see, well, obviously the windows are different. The porch was partially enclosed, and so it used to have an enclosure, at least in part, on that side, maybe to provide some screen from the wind and rain and whatnot. Also, the chimney's gone, and the height has probably increased. So what probably happened sometime between 1984 and this is they raised the roof to get a gable roof to do an addition off the back. And that time they probably expanded the shed dormer right there to add a third window, and they added on in the back. And so what you see here is like fundamentally like two major changes to the home over time. And so that's really what's made this house appear like it is today. And so when you look then at the house, I sort of did just a mock-up.
Oh, cool.
You can see There's the porch on this side, perhaps what it originally looked like, the addition of the shed dormer and the porch on this side, and then the addition on the back and the expanded dormer right there. And you can see they're just progressively adding on space, little by little, by little by little. Yeah, it would have looked like a completely different house if the door was still on that side, huh?
Yeah, we've been trying to figure out, like, when you're inside, it just feels like it's a little bit mazy in there.
Yeah.
And knowing this history, that's like, oh, that's why.
That is entirely why. And it's amazing because when I look at the house now, you anticipate that this was always the prominent portion because the roof's the highest here. You know, the porch is on this side. But at one point, that was not the case. So based on all of that, I think it's a really interesting building. And I think, you know, it's like it shows how buildings change little by little by little by people saying, hey, we need some more space here for this reason or there for whatever reason. And so you can see the gradual change of a building through time is a really neat example of that. Now, moving on to the tree itself.
Oh, the tree.
So this is kind of cool. I think we need to do more research about the tree itself, but I think what we found is really interesting. Our historic designation says that tree was planted in 1858 by Henry Hill's wife, Martha Hill.
Wow. Martha and Virgin Hill.
Yeah. So that is
an old tree.
That's an old tree, and the interesting thing about that is in 1858, this portion of the town was not platted yet, which means the lots weren't created. It was part of Henry Hill's donation land claim, and Martha's out planting trees, and she put a tree there before the streets were in, before the lots were in, anything like that. Wow. And isn't that an amazing thing? So based on that, I mean, just sort of picture that. That's before the flood of 1861. It's before the town asked Henry Hill to plat this portion of town to have some buildable land to build on. It's pretty amazing that tree's still here, given all of that stuff.
Yeah. I think to go along with that, it's worth mentioning, it's worth trying to protect this tree because there were additional Martha Hill trees in this vicinity that are gone now. And I'm not sure, I think this might be the last one in this corner, so worth protecting.
Yeah. Well, we've had arborists come out a few times and they love being up in there, so.
They brag about it.
Oh, neat.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, it's super cool trees, super cool history of this place, and we appreciate you folks letting us explore it with you.
Thanks for doing the research for us.
Yeah, thank you very much.